The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead as Emma sat in the emergency room waiting area, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The antiseptic smell filled her nostrils, mixing with her growing anxiety. She had been putting off this visit for 3 days now, hoping the problem would resolve itself. But here she was, finally accepting that some things required professional attention. Emma had always been the quiet type. In college, she was the one who sat in the back of lecture halls, took meticulous notes, and only spoke when called upon. Now, at 26, working as a librarian at the local branch, she still preferred books to people most days. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was more comfortable navigating fictional worlds than real-world emergencies. The waiting room was surprisingly calm for a Friday evening. An elderly man dozed in a corner chair, his newspaper folded across his chest. A mother sat nearby, gently rocking her feverish toddler. Emma watched them, trying to distract herself from the uncomfortable burning sensation that had brought her here in the first place. She shifted in her seat, wincing slightly. The urinary tract infection had started as a minor annoyance but had steadily worsened. The pain was now impossible to ignore, and the embarrassment of discussing such personal matters with a stranger felt almost as uncomfortable as the physical symptoms. Emma Richardson. A nurse called from the doorway, clipboard in hand. Emma's heart skipped. She stood slowly, smoothing down her simple blue sweater and gathering her purse. Following the nurse down a long corridor lined with curtained examination rooms, she tried to rehearse what she would say to the doctor. How do you casually mention burning urination and pelvic discomfort to someone you've never met? The nurse led her to a small room with pale green walls and gestured toward the examination table. Dr. Mitchell will be with you shortly. He's one of our best emergency physicians. Emma nodded, climbing onto the table and arranging the paper gown they'd given her. She stared at her hands, practicing deep breathing techniques she'd learned from a meditation app. The minutes stretched by like hours. A gentle knock interrupted her nervous thoughts. Ms. Richardson, I'm Drive Mitchell. Emma looked up and felt her breath catch. The man entering the room was nothing like what she had expected. He was tall, with dark hair that looked like he'd been running his fingers through it, and kind brown eyes that immediately put her at ease. His white coat hung perfectly over what appeared to be an expensive shirt, and his smile was warm and genuine. Please, call me Emma, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Mitchell pulled up a rolling stool and sat down, maintaining comfortable eye contact. Emma, then, I understand you're experiencing some discomfort. Can you tell me what's been bothering you? There was something about his manner that made the embarrassing conversation feel less daunting. His voice was gentle, patient, without any hint of judgment or rush. Emma found herself relaxing slightly as she explained her symptoms, surprised by how easy it was to talk to him. That definitely sounds like a urinary tract infection, he said, making notes on his tablet. These are very common, especially in women your age. Nothing to be embarrassed about at all. As he conducted the examination, Drive Mitchell kept up a steady stream of gentle conversation. He asked about her work, her interests, anything to keep her mind off the uncomfortable procedure. Emma found herself actually enjoying their chat, forgetting momentarily why she was there. You work at the library? He asked, washing his hands at the small sink. I practically lived there. During medical school. There's something peaceful about being surrounded by all those books. Emma smiled, the first genuine smile she'd managed all day. Most people think it's boring, but I love it. Every book is like a doorway to somewhere else. That's a beautiful way to put it, Drive Mitchell said, and Emma thought she detected something more than professional courtesy in his tone. The test results came back quickly, confirming his diagnosis. As he wrote out her prescription, Emma noticed his hands, steady, precise, with an expensive-looking watch that caught the light. Everything about him seemed refined, from his perfectly fitted clothes to the way he spoke with quiet confidence. This should clear everything up within a few days, he said, handing her the prescription. But I want you to follow up with your regular doctor next week, just to make sure everything's resolving properly. Emma nodded, taking the paper from him. Their fingers brushed briefly, and she felt a small jolt of electricity. Thank you, Drive Mitchell. You've been very kind. Please, call me David, he said, then seemed to catch himself. I mean, Drive David Mitchell. He smiled, looking almost shy for a moment. As Emma gathered her things, she felt oddly reluctant to leave. There was something about this man that intrigued her, his easy manner, his genuine interest in her answers, the way he made her feel heard and important despite the clinical setting. "Emma," David said as she reached the door. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but would you like to have coffee sometime? I mean, after you're feeling better, of course." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "You want to have coffee with me?" "Very much," he said, his professional composure slipping slightly. "I know this might seem unusual, given how we met, but I'd love to hear more about those doorways to other worlds." Emma felt her cheeks warm. "I'd like that too." They exchanged phone numbers, and as Emma walked back through the emergency room, she felt lighter than she had in days. Not just because of the treatment, but because of the unexpected connection she'd made. Over the next week, as her symptoms cleared up, Emma found herself thinking about David constantly. Their first coffee date led to dinner, then long walks through the city park, then quiet evenings at the bookstore where David proved to be surprisingly well read. It was during their third date that Emma learned the truth about David's background. They were walking past the new wing of the hospital when David pointed it out casually. "That's actually named after my family," he said. "The Mitchell wing. My father was a philanthropist." Emma stopped walking. "Your father was Harrison Mitchell." "The Harrison Mitchell." David looked uncomfortable. "Yes, I know what you're thinking. I'm thinking you're incredibly wealthy," Emma said slowly. "I suppose I am," David admitted. "But that's not who I am, Emma. I work in the because I want to help people, not because I need the money. I could have taken over the family business, but medicine is my passion." Emma stared at him, processing this information. The expensive watch, the perfectly tailored clothes, the confidence, it all made sense now. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because of this," David said, gesturing to her expression. "Because people treat me differently when they know. But you talked to me like I was just a person. You made me laugh, you shared your thoughts about books and life, and you never once asked what I did for a living outside the hospital." Emma realized he was right. She had been drawn to his kindness, his intelligence, his genuine interest in her thoughts and feelings. The money was irrelevant to what she'd come to feel for him. "I fell for the man who held my hand during an embarrassing medical procedure," she said quietly. "The one who made me feel comfortable and safe. That's who you were to me." David's face lit up with relief and something deeper. "And I fell for the woman who finds magic in books and isn't afraid to be vulnerable. Who sees the world as full of doorways to adventure." 3 months later, Emma would laugh with her friends about how she met her boyfriend in the emergency room during the most embarrassing moment of her life. But she would also tell them that sometimes the most unexpected circumstances lead to the most extraordinary connections. As they continued their walk that evening, Emma realized that her emergency room visit had indeed been a doorway, not to another world, but to a life she never could have imagined. Sometimes the best stories began in the most unlikely places.